Hey folks, welcome to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Carlos, it's good to have you back. We missed you. I missed you. It's not the same without you. You know, we did have our editor, Kirk Crawford, fill in last week, and he did about as well as he could do. It was fun to talk to him, but he's not Carlos. There's one Carlos.
No, he gets paid a lot more. That's
who knows? I mean,
he probably gave himself a raise.
I mean, who knows? Those are assumptions you like to make. I don't necessarily want to make those assumptions. I want to speak with some degree of fact, as much as I can. But in any case, it's good to have you back, man. How you feeling?
Good. I do feel a large amount of remorse, though, for you, Shawn, because I know that you're going to pretend that you're completely fine with the Pistons getting the number 5 pick in the lottery. But I know that this puts a big dent in the thing that's most important to you as a professional sports writer, which is travel, eating on the company's dime. I'm sure you had plans to go to France. You had plans to go to Summer League in Vegas. If you had gotten the number 1 pick with Wembanyama, he would have been traveling the globe on the Free Press's dime. So I'm sorry, Shawn. I do feel bad for you.
Well, I mean, we're going to talk about the lottery. Obviously, that's the big topic. It happened, 24 hours, less than 24 hours prior to this recording, and then we're going to talk about the rookie minicamp because I think you were not around for that, and you obviously have some thoughts from afar about the rookie haul and the NFL draft. Not the NFL draft, but the players the Lions got in the NFL draft, and we'll deal with that in the second section. Normally, we don't start a podcast with the Pistons over the Lions, but a lot of interest. There's a lot of interest in the lottery. So let's get into that. Let me just address this allegation. That first of all, okay, they didn't need the number 1 pick for me to go to Vegas for the combine. They needed the top 3 pick, and the Pistons couldn't even manage that, right? What
was your reaction when they flip over the card, number 5, worst record in the league by a little margin, right? 3 games or so, and they get the 5th pick. What was your instant gut reaction?
My instant gut reaction was I didn't expect him to get the number 1 pick. I mean, the odds were sort of against it, obviously, right? The odds were that they got the number 5 pick if you're just going by the math. 52, 53%, whatever it is. It's not over 47% that they get one of the top 4. That's not a huge number. But my first gut reaction was that the fan base was going to go crazy. And I mean, that's really what I thought about.
Why was the fan base going to go crazy?
Because, and I wrote, and this is something that I didn't write about the fan base's reaction completely, but this is something that I just finished writing, actually, Carlos, a column that'll be out by the time this pod drops. But and we can talk about this, but just this idea that, okay, I don't want to give you too long an answer here because let's delve into this. I asked for a gut reaction
as we go through this section on lottery picks and odds and percentages, but go ahead.
No, you asked me why. I said my gut reaction was the fan base is going to go crazy. That was my gut reaction. Okay. And you asked why. And then you asked why. So the why is, I think it's not that we're spoiled, but I think here's what I think. This is the most condensed I can put this. For the last 30 years, the 3 non-Lions teams have had long runs of success that only the Tigers didn't win the national championship, or a title. But
they were amazing for a while.
No, it really was. And if you start with the Wings, who won 4, let's just run this down. You can tell me what you think of this. We start with the Wings, and I wrote all this morning. They won 4 cups and made the playoffs for 25 straight years, and obviously had other deep playoff runs other than those 4 cups, lots of them. So there's that. So that's that's historic stuff. Maybe not the 4 cups, but kind of for that era it is. But the playoff appearances,
dynasty.
The Pistons twice had long runs. The first time they won 2 titles, went to 3 straight finals and 5 straight Eastern Conference finals, and were overall relevant for a decade. When they got good again, they won 1 title, went to 2 finals, and went to 6 straight Eastern Conference finals, and were relevant for probably a year or 2 after that, or not after that, but on either side of that. Especially because they lost a couple times in the playoffs before they first started that conference finals run. The Tigers got to 2 World Series, didn't win it. We would think a little differently if they'd won one. They got to 2 World Series, but were a playoff contender, a relative and a relevant team for about a decade. So those 3 teams over the span of about 30 years had not unprecedented success, but they weren't flashes in the pan, right, Carlos? They weren't just, oh, we're really good for a year, we have this magical run, and then we go away for a decade. All 3 of them had incredible runs of success. So now we haven't had any of that for, 8, 9 years, maybe 10, depending on the team. And this is a normal cycle for normal cities. I mean, it's a little bit long. We're the longest in the country right now, and that's been laid out by lots of different outlets, including us. But so it's the psychology of all that winning now with the losing, and not only that, Carlos, none of them being good at the same time. The problem was all 3 of them were kind of good at the same time. At least they had some overlap, especially the Pistons, the Wings. And so it's starting to feel like poor us, Detroit versus everybody. I saw last night, oh, it's rigged. We just need to move how many people I saw suggest they just need to move the franchise? I mean,
move the franchise.
Yes, I saw this last night. It was now I know that's in a minority, but yeah, like we're never going to be good again. And by we, I mean just Detroit. That none of these teams are ever going to be good again because it can feel like that at times. So that's why I thought the fan base is going to go rigged, go crazy, not because they didn't get Victor Wembanyama, but because they went from the worst record to 5th.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. Is that it's been so long since the Pistons have been relevant. But it's also your fault. People like you, Shawn, calling Wembanyama generational talent. He's amazing. So it's not even like when they got Cade, when they got the number 1 pick a couple of years ago at Cade. Good player, but not generational talent, whatever that means, I guess. But, your Michael Jordan types, right? The LeBron. So I think this is, and I mean, I know you don't think I know anything about basketball. I think they play with the round spherical object. But anyway, watching a little bit of the highlights of his play, yeah, he's amazing. He's like 8 feet tall and whatever, and he can play defense, and he can shoot from outside. He can just everything. He does everything great. I would have wanted to watch him play. I'll probably watch him play when he comes to Detroit at some point, with the Spurs. It'll be fun to see that. He's just one of these crazy, freaks of nature that you just marvel at if he, hopefully it all works out. But I think that was wise. Like you have the team had the worst record. The fans had to suffer through so much, and you think, all right. And it's not even they got the 2nd or the 3rd pick, which they had the same odds of getting, as Houston and San Antonio, but they all the way to 5th, right? Like it's like, okay. And Troy Weaver's talked about, we'll find a good player, and, but they have to be disappointed that they didn't get him. I mean, it's got to be, I think the Spurs, whoever the guy was at the podium with the other, proxies at the lottery, he did some fist pumping, and
I think it was RC. I think it was RC Buford, their general manager. Yeah,
GM actually. Yeah, I think Ben Wallace should have arm wrestled him. Did you see Ben? I mean, Big Ben looked like an angry man up there, just like stone faced, and I would have liked to have to seen some kind of.
The last time I saw somebody react, I mean, when we saw footage of the Pistons reacting when they won the lottery a couple of years ago, and by the way, they just won the lottery, as you pointed out, and to call Cunningham a good player, I mean, we don't know. I mean, maybe that's all he'll ever be, but he still has a chance to be a great player, not Jordan, but generational or whatever, but he has a chance to be a great player. I don't know if he will be or not, but they just won the lottery 2 years ago. So this idea that the woe is me is kind of, as far as Wembanyama, I don't think it was just not getting him. I'm with you. I think it was not getting a top 3 pick. Yeah. Because they were conditioned to think that they're 3 players, but they've been told, a lot of fans have been told, well, okay, in a lot of other draft years, Scoot Henderson. I mean, there are a lot of basketball people that think he's the best guard prospect in years, right? So, like point guard prospect. But it's just been overshadowed by the hype of Wembanyama. And I don't know if it's my fault. I mean, yeah, no, he's incredibly talented. But I wrote a column the other day trying to lay out the reality of the NBA and how it works year in and year out and how teams win versus the excitement of somebody that's got so much hype. Occasionally they do work out, and occasionally somebody meets that hype. LeBron James is the best example in modern history of that, right? I mean,
look at
he
the
was
Warriors.
the last guy. Pardon me.
The Warriors, right? I mean, what Steph was the sixth pick,
seventh.
Seventh.
Yeah,
pick?
Draymond was a second round pick.
Second round. Klay Thompson was like 11th or 12th.
No, for sure. I mean, of the 4 teams that are playing right now, the Nuggets, the Lakers, the Celtics, and the Heat, only the Celtics are built with high lottery picks. And they didn't have a number 1 pick, but Jason Tatum's their best player. He was the number 2 pick. I think Jaylen Brown was a lottery pick. But the other 3 teams are either the Lakers have an unfair advantage, right? Just like just like maybe the Heat, I don't know about the Knicks, maybe wherever players want to go for tax reasons or for just lifestyle reasons, those teams are always going to have an advantage. That's just how it is in free agency and any sports. The Wings benefited from that for a while in the early 2000s.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
They did. I mean, remember when they had their pick of free agents there for a while. So
when
Detroit
Marianne Hossa turned down the Oilers, I think, to come to the Wings for less money.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's hockey, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, it is, right. So that's the one sport where they benefited that from. But that's the thing. The gap between the excitement, especially when somebody comes along like Wembanyama, and that doesn't happen very often. The last time I think it happened was with Zion Williams, and you and I talked about this. Zion Williamson. 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, he was thought of as a different, unique kind of player. And he's had a lot of injuries and had some bad luck with that. And it hasn't yet happened for New Orleans. It might still, but yeah, I mean, you got to go back. It's interesting that Wembanyama went to the Spurs. There was a lot of Spurs hate last night too. Like, okay, this isn't fair. They got David Robinson, made them really good for a while. Then they get Tim Duncan, and he's the best last example of those last 25 years of a generational guy at number 1, staying with a franchise and winning a bunch of titles. He won 5. But it's interesting to me. You got to go all the way back to '97 to see that happen, and then it's the fact that it's the Spurs,
yeah,
right. So maybe Wembanyama went to the best place for him in terms of development.
How long is Pop going to stay there? Like till he's 90?
Yeah, you wonder how long he's going to coach. So let's talk though for a sec about the Pistons and what this really means. And I want to throw this phrase out, and I wrote this. And I want you to tell me what you think about this. I don't think, to me, it's not about lottery luck. It's about draft luck. So in other words, the Pistons, they weren't lucky in the lottery last night. They fell to 5th. But there are going to be 3 or 4 players that are going to be available to them, more than that if they want to, who knows. But probably 3 or 4 players, maybe 5, available at number 5. One of those players is going to hit. One of those players is going to be really, really good. That's where the luck comes in. You got to get lucky at that spot. If they get the player out of those 4 or 5 players available that may be an all-star, they will be fine. But that's a big if, right? I mean, and that's really, you mentioned the Warriors earlier and Curry and whatever. To me, that you got to get draft luck. Giannis in Milwaukee, number 13. Jokic last night was playing the Lakers playing the Nuggets. He was 41. Troy Weaver mentioned him. What he didn't mention was that Jamal Murray, who's their second best player, who had 30 plus points in their game 1 win, who's a really, really good player. He was drafted at 7. So to me, it's the draft luck, not the lottery luck.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that. I mean, I don't know if Troy would agree with you that it's luck. It's skill more. I think he even said he doesn't believe in luck.
He was talking about the lottery, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to make your own luck, really. The thing with these picks is, and I mean, here's a question. You would know this better than me, but how much does it depend on the coach? Because supposedly it's the Pistons need a wing, and it's a wing-rich draft, supposedly. So is that necessarily what you're going to do? Is he going to, Troy even said yesterday, he may not keep the pick. He may trade down, right, and do something else. So we don't know what's going to happen. But how much does it depend on the coach and deciding what system he wants to run? Is it just universally accepted that they have to have a wing, or that they need a wing probably higher in the draft, or is that depending on the system the coach runs?
I don't know if it depends on the system per se. I mean, and it's just funny because I wrote this last week. Excuse me, this idea that, and you and I have talked about this also in the NBA. To me, the coaches matter for sure, but you got to have the players. You just do. If you don't have the players in the NBA, you're not going to win. Greg Popovich, who we think of as one of the best coaches in the history of this sport, his team won 20 games last year. He didn't have the players.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you can go up and down the list of the best players. The best coaches who we think of as the best coaches, and if they don't have the players, and the best coaches will say that. Steve Kerr says, "Look, I'm winning because I've got Steph Curry, and then also Draymond Green and Klay Thompson." Any coach with any kind of humility at all. Dwayne Casey's the coach in the year in Toronto. He's got DeMar DeRozan, Fred VanVleet, and Kyle Lowry, and a bunch of young good players. And then he comes to the Pistons, and they don't have they don't have the same kind of talent.
Yeah.
So it just, now that's not to say all coaches are the same. So yeah, they need to get the coach right for sure. And the coach can make a difference in culture setting and lots of stuff. But in terms of the kind of player they need, well, let me just go back real quickly.
But
Troy,
I mean, going to work, the going to work crew. A lot of them were just cast offs, right?
They were. Now a couple of them were high picks. They were. Now, Chauncey Billups was the number 3 pick of the draft, right? So there needs to be
he didn't work out in Denver. That's how they got him.
No, and several in Minnesota, and he played in Boston. He played in Boston for a sec. He was, I think, at 3 teams before he got here. Rasheed Wallace was a top 4 pick, 5 pick, something like that. I mean, he was a high lottery pick. So Ben Wallace is a great story, and that does happen. But you got to have talent. Troy Weaver, getting back to you're right. It does take some skill, but it's not just skill. There's luck involved, and they'll all tell you that. And what did he say last night? He said, "It's not where you pick. It's are you going to hit the ball when you get the swing."
Right.
I mean, that's really
not
what
where
it
you
is.
bet in the order. It's are you going to hit the ball? Yeah,
exactly. And that's really, really what it is.
Although if you got Aaron Judge hitting behind you, you're probably going to see some better pitches. So I don't know if I love that analogy.
Well, I mean, speaking of Aaron Judge and the Yankees, let me ask you this. This is another thing I wrote about as part of just this larger idea about
how many plugs are we going to hear about the column you wrote?
The
about
fan base?
Like
because this is all what matters in terms of the moment, the reaction, and what people are feeling right now. And this is how the Pistons are going to build to some degree. I don't think it's not just the Pistons. So if you go back and look at, again, we're not including the Lions, the Tigers, the Wings, the Pistons, how those teams, we talked about the runs they had. How were those teams built? Did any of those teams at any point have the top 2 superstar in their sport? Top 2, 3 superstars? They did not. I mean, maybe Miguel Cabrera as a hitter would be the closest. Culturally, he wasn't a superstar though. But
what are you talking about? Culturally or skill?
This is how Detroit teams win, though. The Pistons. So Isaiah Thomas, and I hate to reference it because I wrote this, but Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars and Dennis Rodman beat Michael Jordan. Chauncey Billups and Rasheed Wallace beat Shaq and Kobe. Henrik Zetterberg and Pavel Datsyuk beat Sidney Crosby. Steve Yzerman and Nicholas Lidstrom, they're trying to beat Wayne Gretzky. The Wings never had a Gretzky. The Pistons never had a Jordan or a Shaq or a Kobe. The Tigers did have Cabrera, but when they started their run, they were winning with Kenny Rogers and Maglio Ordonez beating Derek Jeter, who was the superstar of the sport, right? That's Detroit. I mean, I know it's not intentional. It's not like all these teams have gotten together and say, okay, this means this to this city, and this is how we're going to try to win. It's just how it's happened. And that's what the Pistons are going to face now. It's what the Wings face right now, and the Tigers to a degree. The Pistons have 3 players that could turn into be monsters, especially Jalen Duren. And Jaden Ivey has shown the last couple of months he could be really, really good. We don't know yet about Cunningham. He might be really good. But if those 3 hit, they will be a playoff team fairly soon. And then it's up to the general manager to fill that out with the right vets and the right role guys, because in the NBA, the difference between a true contender and just a playoff team is, the 4 or 5 guys after your best 2-3 players. That's what makes the difference, right? That's why the Lakers just beat the Warriors. They're much deeper and they were a better fit than this year's Warriors. So to me, that's Weaver's charge. They got to get this 5th pick right, and then they got to hope that these young guys develop, and they might, and then build around them. So it's not lost at all to me.
I think, though, that, the one thing with getting these superstar players, even though you're citing some examples of, the Tigers and
the Wings,
the Yankees
and
the Wings and but how many titles, how many World Series did the Yankees win with Jeter? They happened to lose in the ALCS to the Tigers that year, but they ended up
winning. They lost to them twice,
times?
Actually, but yeah.
Or twice. And the same thing, like your other favorite sport, hockey, and your favorite only player you probably know in the NHL, but Connor McDavid, is same thing there with the Oilers. Is they haven't had a lot of playoff success, but they're perennially kind of a, maybe not the favorite to win the Stanley Cup, but they're almost always the favorite to get to the Western Conference Finals because they have McDavid and Draisaitl, and you have elite players. You're going to be in the mix, To me, that's kind of, nobody's ever going to say we have this player and we're going to win the championship because of this. It's very unlikely. Like the LeBrons out there, it's unlikely. But if you have really good players, like you said, talent, really excellent talent, you're going to be in the mix. You're going to be, even with the Red Wings, Datsuk and Zetterberg, and those are really good players.
Oh, they're great players.
Great players, and they were great players. They weren't Wayne Gretzky, they weren't Sidney Crosby, whatever.
But that's in relation.
But they were really good players.
Exactly, but that's my point about Wembanyama. You don't have to have Tim Duncan.
It sure helps, though. There's almost no chance that the Spurs are going to have Wembanyama and they're not going to have playoff success. It's almost inconceivable unless he gets hurt.
Well, or he's just, I don't know, he shot 29% from 3 last year. Maybe that doesn't develop, right? So that puts a little cap on what he is. And that was from the European line, which is shorter against much weaker defense. So who knows? Look, I'm not saying he's not going to be the next great player in the face of the league. He may well be. But, and the Spurs are a great organization in terms of team building and all that kind of thing. So you would figure they'll maximize everything around it. They've already got a couple of good young players, despite all the losing last year. So, and they got one of the best coaches ever. So no, for sure, that all helps. What I'm saying,
don't forget,
though, is
one thing with these generational talents in any sport, you get a guy like that, free agents want to come to your team. I want to play with this guy.
To a degree,
right?
No, to a degree, depends on who it is. But yeah, it depends on the nature of that personality. There's a lot that goes into that. So it depends on who it is. There's no question that kind of transcendent player can change a franchise. But back to the Wings for a second, they were good and relevant with a bunch of really, really good players, some great players, but not the best player in hockey. And that's the Pistons were the same. The Tigers didn't win the title, but they were sort of the same for a bit. And you could argue that later on, when they did have a couple of arguably the best pitcher in the league and the best hitter in the league, that wasn't quite enough. So there's no guarantee even with that. But it's funny, Detroit does have a history of having teams really being really, really good for a sustained period of time without the couple of marquee players in their sport. In other words, there are lots of ways to win. And that's what I was right in relation to not getting Wembanyama. It's not the end of the franchise. I think I don't think casual Pistons fans have any idea how Jaden Ivey might be, right? And, he might be. We'll see.
But he hasn't played with Cade that much.
No, and that's a problem. The last time I saw him play in person, it was against Miami Heat, who were in the conference finals in early April, and Eric Spoelstra was double-teaming him in the fourth quarter because they couldn't stop him because of his pull-up jumper off the bounce from mid-range, which is not something he ever showed at Purdue or the first part of the season. And you're thinking, okay, if he's going to do that, and he started getting a little bit better defensively, the decision-making gotten a little bit better. This is a rookie. If he started to show some of those things late in the year, and he's getting doubled, now part of it's because Cunningham's hurt and Bogdanovich wasn't playing, so it was smart by Spoelstra to do that, but that says a little something. Spoelstra, after that game, said, this is a special young talent. And he showed that the last 6 weeks. I mean, this guy's got potential. Again, it's just potential. He's got all league potential. Cunningham, maybe. Duran, certainly at his position. That's 3 guys. If they all hit, they could be good for a long time.
So you're saying that Ivy was showing this little elevated step of progressing a little bit toward the end of the season, right?
Absolutely.
So this is, by the way, to the listener out there, this is Shawn's low-key pitch to Kirkland Crawford, our boss, I have to go see this develop more in Vegas at Summer League.
I don't know that Ivy.
This is really why he's making the point.
I don't know that Ivy will play in Vegas. So no.
Kirk's going to hear that.
I don't. In fact, he was asked about that in his exit interviews if he was going to play Summer League ball, and he's like, I don't know. I could tell he probably didn't want to, but no. But he's a worker too, right? So look, it's disappointing when there's somebody potentially that transcendent. I mean, we're not just talking about a star. We're talking about somebody who might be the next LeBron in terms of being the face of the league. And Detroit just hasn't had, in any sport, hasn't had that player, really. I mean, Again, Cabrera is probably the closest. Yeah, I mean, right. Yeah, I mean, you got to go.
Well, you saw him play. I mean, you saw him play.
But Carlos, seriously, right? That's the thing. Detroit's never really had that experience of having
Gordy was that player.
Yeah, you'd probably have to go back to that. Yeah. I mean, maybe Cabrera. He was the best hitter in the game for a while, right?
Yeah, but he wasn't transcendent.
No,
he wasn't. The way like
even Reggie
Jackson,
Albert Pujols was, right? Or certainly Reggie Jackson. Yeah. So I think people were wanting that, and then as a consolation, wow, there's another couple of good prospects here that are, one of them would be the number 1 pick in a lot of drafts, and we didn't even get to sniff them. Right. So I think if they were 2 or 3 right now, you'd have a very different reaction. People be feeling a lot different today.
Yes, if it was close, but just so it's not even close. It's like, oh man.
I know. Well,
it was fun. It was fun to read that. You know what? And this is what I saw in comments on my story and Omari Sankofa's story on Twitter. It's like I didn't see this till after I was done writing, which I wrote kind of the same thing that I'm done kind of with this team. It's really depressing. But a lot of people are saying, that's it, I'm out. And people are also, I think this is why Omari wrote the story about it's not a rigged system. I was there in Chicago, which is smart to write that. But I think people automatically, the conspiracy theories come out and it's rigged and whatever. And I made a joke about wanting a recount, but you just, I mean, the anger there, and I do doubt when people say, I'm not going to watch anymore or whatever. Like,
of course,
you care too much.
They're just popping off and forgetting that they won the lottery 2 years ago. Right. So they're just popping off. All right, let's take a quick break and we're going to talk some Lions minicamp and
rookie minicamp.
Sorry, you're right. There's a big difference. And I got one more quick thought on the Pistons. But let's take a quick break and we'll be right back with more Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Welcome back to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Okay, you mentioned before the break, Carlos, that joking about how people were out. I saw a lot of the same reaction last night. It's rigged. It's funny, forgetting that, again, they won the lottery 2 years ago. And all of a sudden now Cade's just a good player when we have no idea what kind of player he is. But patience is not a friend of sports fans. And we're grateful for that, right? So we probably wouldn't have, jobs if everybody was super, super patient in sports fandom. But talking about people who are saying they're out, okay. And I did see some folks react in social media last night about how it doesn't matter. The Pistons either need to move or whatever. They're the 4th most important team in the market, the 5th most. Even making the joke that they're the 5th most.
I love it when people say they need to move because they're just going to get some magical owner with a better franchise. Like, no, there's not going to be a team here for a while.
Right? No, there's a lot of frustration with Tom Gores because it has not gone well in his tenure, the owner of the Pistons, and that's fine and that's fair, and that's obviously part of this, but to say that you're out and say the Pistons don't matter, that's actually not true. This is one of the great basketball towns in this country. And the numbers, despite what some folks out there who want to piss on the NBA, despite, for whatever reason, we don't need to go into all those reasons, but despite that, the Pistons were top 6 or 7 in attendance this past year with a 17-win team. The Miami Heat game I was at in early April, when they'd lost 22 out of 23 games, they had 13,000 people there, and they were on their feet in the fourth quarter. It's sort of crazy. Now, there are definitely some nights you go and the Charlotte Bobcats are there, and Hornets. God. And they used to be the Bobcats before they were the Hornets. Anyway, the atmosphere was. I leaned over to a colleague at one point. I'm like, this is kind of crazy, isn't it? That this team is this bad, and they're still kind of. Detroit loves basketball. They love the Pistons, and when the Pistons are good, it's not like the Lions, but there certainly is. I mean, we can just judge by our own interest in what we write about. There was a lot more buzz and interest with this draft than there was a week ago with the NHL lottery. It's just the NBA has a little broader appeal. Now, you could argue, are the Tigers number 2? Probably.
Oh,
but
yeah.
when the Pistons are really good, I mean, the Palace had one of the best atmospheres in the NBA, and a Little Caesars will too if they get really, really good. But to say people are out when the numbers don't back that up just from this past year, right? I don't know if you went to a game or not.
There's attendance, and then there's TV viewership and general interest. And, we both know that the Pistons stories, on our website don't do as well. I mean, we can go to a Tigers game and write almost anything, something that happened from the game or a trend or something from the opposing team or whatever it is. It'll do reasonably well. And
this time of the year, this time of the year,
and the team is not good. It's okay. But the Pistons, unless you have something really interesting about just showing up for a random Washington Bullets or Charlotte Bobcats game,
they're
if you're going Bobcats, I'm going Bullets. Then you're not gonna see a lot of readership off of that. So that's where you do need the team. It doesn't have to be a great team, but it has to be somewhat competitive. And I think you have to pick your spots of, when they were,
you do.
Who was the player they added that, I forget his name.
Wait, who?
The Pistons player who they added
when this past year?
Yeah, you wrote a column about him.
Oh, James Wiseman. Yeah.
Wiseman, yeah, and his debut and all that. And
there was interest in that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to pick your spots. We have to be judicious. So
no, for sure. But the fan and the attendance and the fans, and there is, especially on Twitter. I mean, Pistons Twitter is a heck of a place. But and this is with a really, really bad team. So it's a great NBA town. It's just they haven't been good for a good long while. And we were kind of robbed of seeing what they might be as a fun young team this past year because they lost Cade Cunningham and then Isaiah Stewart ended up getting hurt. And then they sat the vets toward the end of the season during that losing streak. But, I don't think they were a 17-win team last year. If they're healthy the whole year, 25. maybe they're 24, 25-win team, 26, 27, 8 even. And because they didn't just lose their best player, they lost the leader and a guy that connects and all that. So maybe they even win 28-9 games. And then you're looking at, okay, that's not to get from there to a play-in is not a huge leap. At 17, there's a psychology to that, right? It's just bad. It's almost historically bad.
Yeah, but even at 25 games, I mean, you're still a ways away from being competitive in the playoffs, right? I mean, making any kind of run.
Oh, for sure. No, for sure. No question. But like in all sports, having a fun young team. But I think there's something about the NBA because you can see the players and you identify with them in a way. When you got a fun young NBA team and you can see that there's potential there, that creates its own kind of buzz. And they haven't had that in a while. And they still have a chance to have this next year. Not be a contender, obviously, or even a team that can get out of the first round, or even a team that can get into the regular playoffs. But if they can push towards a play-in and have nights where they occasionally beat the best teams in the league at home, that'll create a little buzz.
Or for sure, yeah, absolutely. New coach, everything.
Yeah, right. And see these young, getting Cunningham back, just that'll be a curiosity. So, and then whoever they take, they're not going to get any kind of star player, but maybe that player ends up being good. All right, enough about the Pistons. You wanted to talk about the Super Bowl bound Detroit Lions.
Oh, all the hype all the hype that I missed because I dared to be like off for a few days and I didn't go to rookie minicamp. And our trusty correspondents, Shawn Windsor and Dave Burkett, getting who was the conductor on the hype train? Was it you? Were you shoveling the coal into the steam engine and Burkett was the driver, or were you was it the other way around? Because you guys were taking turns driving the hype.
No. We're not really driving any hype. We're just reacting to what's there, and
guys running around in their underwear. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, no, just the buzz and the feel of the place. It's weird to have that much. It's a real thing. It's a weird. And if you played sports that weren't individual sports where you had to rely on other human beings, you would know that. Baseball is kind of a collection.
Myself, Shawn, and my caddy.
Collection. Yeah, baseball is a collection of individuals. Although you're a coach, so you should.
That's right.
You should start leaning into this.
I coached the Free Press softball team, and by the way, I hate to toot my own horn, but the one game I coached, we were 1-0.
No, that's great.
We're like 0-4 since then. So that's
great. I'm sure that as a coach, you discard everything you try to write. You know what I mean? Like you're your actual self as a coach. Is that fair?
I'm just brutal on them, man. I bench guys. I've almost pulled Ulrich's our pitcher. I've almost like pulled him several times. No mercy. I'm like Tom Landry. I'm like I'd sub the quarterbacks in every other series if I could.
Really?
Yeah, why not?
That's
about me.
Interesting.
It's about the coaching.
No. It's just kind of crazy that here we are at rookie minicamp and I don't know. Part of it's the schedule too that came out. They're opening with Kansas City on the road, so the players were talking about that. I think Campbell referenced that, so that adds a little bit. If they were opening it against the Panthers. Let's just stay in Charlotte since we've been mentioning
Michigan
Charlotte.
Panthers, but okay,
yeah.
Charlotte.
Then obviously people would still be super excited, but that adds to it a little bit, right? They get the defending.
Well, it says right. I mean, that was Burkett's hype. Is what does this say? This means the schedule makers expect them to be a Super Bowl team, and the hype's there Thursday night.
Well, I don't know about a Super Bowl team, but there are business decisions made by the networks with a lot of money that are banking on the Lions being a fun, interesting team, and that's why they got the opening Thursday night against Kansas City, and then two other nights. I want to say too, a Monday night game and maybe another Thursday night game.
This is low key. The league basically saying, hey, we're not saying this, but maybe this is the Super Bowl matchup, NFC team and AFC team here. And they're going to say it on the broadcast. So could we be seeing the Super Bowl preview? And you'll be writing that, I'm sure, No.
The network's not doing that. I mean, come on.
Of course. Are you crazy?
They're smart football people. They're not going to say they're better than Philly and San Francisco. They're not going
to say that. They're saying who could be a Super Bowl matchup.
No, they're going to say it could be a playoff team, right? I mean, that's what they were. A fun story with a really endearing, charismatic coach who photographs well on the sideline, and so he's good for TV, right? I mean, that's what this is about. That's
TV,
all that is.
But it's TV because people care about it, and because people are. You and Burkett are saying 11 wins, 12 wins, whatever you're saying, and forget about Jameson Williams and all that. He doesn't matter. It's the hype. They're going where the hype is.
Yeah, no, well, he didn't matter in their 8-2 stretch last year. So, no, he matters in that he might change the ceiling of their offense a little bit. I mean, who knows?
All right. Well, let me ask you about.
I don't know, man.
You don't know. Let's get to. You were there. I was not. What was the most impressive part about which player, or what was the most?
I don't know. I mean, how are you going to make judgments based on guys running around in shorts with no pads?
I mean, all considered, sure.
I mean, there are a few things you can see. A couple things that you can see, I guess. Like you can see speed, and Sam Laporta. I mean, it caught everybody's attention. The tight end out of Iowa. Because of how well he ran and just how fluid he ran, it changed of direction a little bit. You can see that at Iowa he had a little wiggle, and I mean he was one of the better yards after the catch guys in the Big Ten and in the country actually as a tight end. But so those are just facts out there that you can see, but still see him in person. and seeing him run the way he can run. So that stood out a little bit. I don't know how that'll translate to a game, but you can see the speed.
So really good tight end from Iowa who has a lot of skill and might make a Pro Bowl, and then Brad Holmes will trade him. Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Really hurt him, didn't it? And
it did. In Charlotte, it hurt them. They could have made the playoffs.
No, Charlotte hurt them because they gave up 330 yards.
Yeah, and if they'd had more offense to match them, they would have made they would have made the playoffs in that one.
He didn't necessarily. Their offense was fine without him. I don't think
it's a shootout. They needed more weapons.
It wasn't quite a shootout. They had a fumble down in the red zone. I remember it was a fumble. I think on a snap exchange. I'm trying to remember a handoff. I can't remember if it was a handoff or the snap exchange. Anyway. Yeah, no, there were some other things that had nothing to do with DJ Hawkinson, but
you like Jack Campbell? Did you like Jack Campbell? He was.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, that's especially hard to tell. What stands out about him is when you talk to him and he doesn't smile and he's just intense. My goodness. So who knows what that means? He's long and he's big for a linebacker, and he can also run. He's very athletic, so you can see the athleticism a little bit, but again, nobody's tackling anybody.
Is there anybody who's, other than the linemen, who are not athletic in football, do you think?
It's all. I mean, everybody's in the NFL is athletic, but it's relative. We're talking about relative athleticism compared to other linebackers. Not all cornerbacks are right. Not all receivers are the same. Not everybody runs like Jameson Williams. You know this. Not the same with running backs, quarterbacks especially. Jared Goff is not super athletic relative to the athleticism at the quarterback spot in the NFL. That's what we're talking about.
How dare you?
You know what I mean? Broderick Martin, the defensive tackle from Western Kentucky, is that where he's from? He's massive. I don't know if he can play or move or whatever.
He's like 330 or something like that, right?
And tall. Yeah, no, and
6'5",
6'4", 6'5". No, he's a big.
Wow.
Yeah, when you hear NFL coaches say, "Wow, he's big," then you know somebody's big, right? Because they're used to being around big people. It's sort of funny, but
now those are the athletes, the 330-pound nose tackles who can move. I don't know how they can do it.
He doesn't move like who's a good Shawn Rogers, or Sue. No, he doesn't move like that. But he's big. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. I know they like him, but I think he's got some potential. But I would say Gibbs didn't play, so I would have liked to seen him out there and see that speed. Who's the favorite quarterback?
Your quarterback of the future. Your next Hall of Fame Lions quarterback, Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, he didn't play either, but obviously, he's coming off an ACL tear. And
what was he like? What did you talk to him?
Who knows when he's going to be ready? He's got a nice smile. That's what I'll say about him.
What is this? A blind date or something?
He's got a combination of a nice smile and sort of a nice, easy confidence and low key swag and
charisma.
And he does. He's got some charisma, but it's the way he talks about the game. The way he talks about the team, he's got all that quarterback talk down already. You know what I mean? They get trained. I mean, obviously they get trained. Any good coach at the college level. He's also a little bit older. That helps for sure. But he as Dave Burkett, our colleague, said, he's got that it factor, and he does. I don't know if he can play, but you know how it is when you're around certain people. You just you can see.
Yeah,
they'd want to follow him. So I don't know, man. I liked Branch too. I like talking to him for the nickelback, slot back, safety hybrid defensive back from Alabama. I think they think they've got at least 2 starters, maybe 3 starters, and 4 people that will play. In Laporta, Campbell, who will start. Laporta probably should start. Gibbs, who if not starting, he'll be sharing plays with or sharing handoffs with or huddles with Montgomery, Dave Montgomery.
You're questioning whether Laporta will start?
No, he should start.
Okay.
Campbell will surely start, and Gibbs will get close to starter snaps for a running back, and then Branch should see some time. I doubt he starts, but So yeah, if they can get 4 starters or guys that are playing a lot out of a rookie draft, then that's not bad, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Kind of similar to what they got last year. What do you think? Are you going to start getting negative? At what point is the optimism from the Lions fan base going to start pissing you off till you start trying to tamp it down?
Now it starts now. No, it's
or
not.
Are you going to be real and let them start losing before you start doing that?
No, I think it's the same every year. There's so much, it's the first chance you see new players, like a new toy that you open at Christmas or whatever. It's like you're excited about it, even if it's a pair of socks. It's a new pair of socks, so everybody's overhyped. Everybody thinks these are amazing players, and it's fine. I mean, that's what it's about. Early season excitement. The new guys, what can they do? We'll see. Once you have full training camp and the rookies are mixed in with the veterans, and they start putting the pads on, then you really see the difference. I mean, everything until then does not really matter that much. I mean, just think of what's his name, Rodrigo, last year, right? It's like not until they put the pads on did you really see what he could do, diagnosing plays, reacting, being in the right spot, making hits, that kind of stuff. I mean, you saw the quickness, but you see the quickness a lot in a lot of these players, the twitch, whatever you want to call it. Fun. It's fun. I mean, I'm glad. I was bummed that I was going to miss the first camp. I always like to go out there for that. So I'll have my chances. They're beginning the OTAs. I think we're going to be talking to the coaches and stuff next week. And start seeing a little bit of, I don't think we see practices. I don't know if we get access to that, but yeah, it'll be fun. It's the start. And it's promising, it would be fun to have something a little bit different and see how they do. And maybe they get on a run. Maybe they pick up where they left off. But yeah, the excitement's here. The expectations are here. It's going to be very interesting this spring and summer.
It should be. I think part of the fun too, and the hype and the hope is to bring it back full circle, related to just where the Pistons and the Wings and the Tigers are. Right? I mean, the Tigers are showing a little bit of life right now, but so the Lions have. It's not just that the NFL's king and the Lions are the most popular team in town. It's also right now that they're filling a void that's been there for almost a decade. So that's so people are just so ready to latch on to anything that's gonna be potentially fun and start winning, and any team is gonna start winning. So I think that's part of it too. All right, we need to take one more break and then come back and wrap this show up. We will have in the next few weeks. We'll get Amari Sankofa, our Pistons beat writer. We'll get somebody in here. Hopefully, it's Amari to delve into more about what the players that are available at number 5, who the Pistons should take, why they should take them, the fit, and all that. You can do your tape study on Cam Whitmore, Villanova's forward. I didn't get to see him play. Villanova played Michigan State earlier this year, but Whitmore was hurt, so I didn't see him play in person. But do your homework on Amin Thompson, Jarris Black, who's not quite a wing, he's more of a forward for Houston. Yeah, so the next time we talk, we get some draft people in here. Not the next time, but within the next few weeks, right? We'll do some draft stuff.
Is it Amin or Amin Thompson? Because they couldn't decide on ESPN.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Amin, but maybe it is Amin. We'll have to figure that out. That's definitely something we'll have to figure out.
Omari can figure that. He can unscramble it for us.
Yeah. I know we're not smart enough for that for sure. But all right. So yeah, we'll do some tape study. How about that? You can put on your analyst hat, take off your fan hat, put on your analyst hat.
Oh, we're going to be talking elevator screens and switches and backdoor cuts. That's not. What was it? Step back dribble.
Don't conflate strategy and sets and how things are run versus individual abilities and skills and talents. Those are two different things. So you'll put your analyst hat on, take your fan hat off, right?
Sure.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, let's take one last quick break, and we'll be right back with more Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Welcome back to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Carlos, it's that time of the show. It's your favorite thing.
It's my favorite thing that you get to steal for your favorite thing.
I borrow it. It's a little friendlier than stealing.
Yeah. So my favorite thing was, as you know, Shawn, I was in North Carolina for my dad's funeral. And the nice thing about this was, unfortunately, people always say, right, we only come together, family comes together as you get older for funerals and weddings. So we're kind of past the wedding stage, everybody's gotten married. But the grandkids are too young to get married. But it was good to see a couple of my uncles showed up. And one of them showed me some pictures. They grew up in a really small, rural mining town, gold mine town in Mexico. And my uncle and another cousin had taken pictures of the town. And they found some kind of archival photos of the town from in the 50s, when they were growing up there. And my uncle told me, he showed me this picture of like, oh, this is where your dad worked, as the electricity, station, and this is where the mine was. And he told me a story about that I'd never heard before, that at one point, Pancho Villa, the famous revolutionary guerrilla, fighter, had come into the town and had hung some people, some of the higher ups who worked for the gold mine, and then used dynamite to blow up parts of the mine so that they would be inoperable. Couldn't help, I don't know what it was, something to do with making money and helping the government. Part of it was terrorism probably too, but Pancho Villa is this larger than life figure in Mexican culture. And I'd never heard that. And that's one of those things that you don't get to hear those things until you are around people. And soon those stories will be gone, if they're not passed down in the oral tradition from, uncle to nephew to cousin to whatever. Those stories are all lost. My dad never told me that story. So it was cool to hear something about where he grew up, even though I've heard a lot about where he grew up, but something different that I hadn't heard in, all the years that I'd known about him growing up there. And I visited that town a long time ago too. So that was my favorite thing, reconnecting with family and hearing some cool new things about my dad and his upbringing.
Well, that's really lovely.
Thank you.
That's really nice. It's fun how you get to hear stories like that, especially after you lose a parent, lose anybody really, and then you find out things you didn't know. Mm-hmm. I feel that because you can then take those things and you can carry those things with you, and it's like you've lost them, but you gain a little piece that you never knew you had in a way, and I find that really meaningful and frankly helpful, during the grieving process as you move on. Not that you ever truly move on, but yeah, that's really nice, Carlos. I would say my favorite thing probably should be the fact that my boys asked me last week if I could make sure that Carlos, you came over here during the fall on a away trip when neither of us have the Lions. They said, "Can Carlos come back and watch a Lions game with us this fall?
Aww.
We'd really like that." And I said, "I will see if we can make that. I will see if they can make that." So I thought that was really nice.
That is nice. I'll be there for the Kansas City game, and you'll be in Kansas City, of course, covering the team.
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, and maybe Mitch is just gonna. Maybe it's just gonna be you and me home for all the away games, and it'll be Mitch. Yeah.
I'm going to be home with Sam and Jake eating chimichangas from Taco Bell.
That'd be fine. Chimichangas. Wow. That's funny. So that'd be a quick favorite thing. But the other favorite thing I should mention is that my sister-in-law lives in one of them. The one who lives in Montana was in town for a few days, and really, we've had some health issues around here, some physical issues really that have prevented some of the normal outdoor stuff and just even keeping up with the house and so forth. But my sister-in-law wanted to come and help with the vegetable garden, which we didn't quite get in, but just kind of tidy and plant some things. And she came. She's got an incredible green thumb, and she came to help do some of that stuff. But then just sort of almost took over the household in a way. And just doing little chores, I'd turn around and the dishwasher would be unloaded or whatever. And these are things that I've been doing for a while, because of some health and physical stuff that's going on here. In any case, she was like an angel. I mean, just doing stuff. It reminded me of when my boys were really young and my mom would come to visit, and she didn't just come to play with the baby or hold the baby. All of a sudden, then something was done or wiped or cleaned, or, it just would happen. I was just like, oh my God. It reminded me of that a little bit, which is a long time ago. But, when somebody else comes in and does stuff, flies across the country to do something like that, just, I know you try to help people. I do the same. I pay it forward all the time, but to receive that, especially when you're a little stuck, you can get in a rut sometimes, right? If you're not feeling up to certain things. And so that would be my favorite thing. Kind of, my sister-in-law came in for a few days and kind of helped unstick a few things. And I'm very, very grateful.
Oh, that's really nice.
So who we're thinking?
Oh, I don't know if Kirk is did he put his name on the podcast yet? It's probably coming. Pre-Press Sports with Kirk, Carlos, Shawn, and Kirk. But Kirkland Crawford, our executive producer. And, well, you know what? I'm sorry. Well, I have to mention him because he's our boss. But Robin Chan is our producer. He's actually the guy who does really everything.
Yeah, we can't do this without Robin.
No,
he does everything.
We're just talking monkeys without.
Yeah, well, of course. We're nothing without Robin. And if Kirk wants to put his name on it, it's fine.
Yeah, it's coming.
Try not to always be worried about losing something. I mean, I one of these days I want to figure out where in your childhood that comes from. And I'm not dismissing.
It was fine until I came on the podcast and Shawn took it over. And our also executive producer and interim editor, Anjanette Delgado. But of course, most importantly, you, the listener, who make this all possible. We need one more thing from the listener, Shawn. What do we need from them?
We need them to, wherever they find their favorite podcast, Spotify, Apple, they need to subscribe, to rate us, give us a 5-star rating or whatever rating you want. Really, we can't tell you what to do, but that would be sweet, right?
And by the way, one of my cousins I saw at the funeral said she subscribed to the podcast. So she goes, I haven't heard much of it, but I subscribed to it. I said, good, give us a rating too.
Yeah, well, she didn't want to hear me, so I don't blame her.
She just muted all the parts with you, which is most of it.
Well, today, yeah, because of the topics, and you were quiet today.
It's because I don't know basketball. I don't know.
No, it's okay.
All the jargon talk that you get into.
I know. Next time, yeah, it's jargon. Next time, you act like we're lawyers. Next week we'll do hockey, and I'll just sit quietly. It's better that
way. Do
way.
highlight.
That too. We can do that too. All right, let's get folks out of here. It's good to have you back, man.
Thanks, Shawn.
All right, until next time, we'll be back with more Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn.